Welcome to the Two Big Guys radio talk show between country music artist Glenn Cummings and Pastor Kenneth Farnsworth. Cutting Edge Radio. Welcome everybody back to the radio show. It's been a little while, Pastor, hasn't it?
It sure has. We've had a few personal things that we've gone through, plus just being busy. Torn meniscus for me. I had some surgery. I think the last time we actually recorded was the beginning of February.
Oh, my goodness.
We haven't been in the studio since, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. I tell you what, there's a lot of things that have happened, like you said, in your life and in my life, and it's just been one of those crazy years so far. And, but one thing I've learned, from doing these radio shows is that over the last year, there's been so many things. I've lost my dad in February, actually, of last year. And, my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And my mother-in-law, she's, been living with us. She's got some dementia issues and is not nice to me sometimes, unfortunately. And it's not her fault.
Is anybody nice to you?
No one's nice to me except for you. You're the only one that's nice, right?
No, I just pretend. I pretend because I'm your pastor.
But no, it's one thing I've learned. I really appreciate so much of having these conversations and doing this radio show with you is to leave everything in the hands of God. There's only so much that we can control. And, for years, I've been the kind of person where I've always controlled most everything in my life.
You and I are both like that. We're both control people.
Pretty much.
In fact, Sasha was in here the very first show we did, and she goes, "Boy, that show is really good, but there were two big heads knocking into each other in there." And, maybe she's a little right there.
No, since our show, I'm completely back down. I'm all laid back. I'm going to let you be the big-headed guy here from now on, and I'm just going to take the back seat. This is going to be a show all about you, and that's what we're going to do. But
yeah, right.
But it's but back to like you said.
No, but you're right, because Sunday I left church early. I did the first service with Pastor. Mm-hmm. I left after Bible class. My cousin died last week in over near Sebastian. I had to go over there on Sunday. And the funny thing is, though, since I had my heart problems, I've lost probably 2 to 3 cousins a year, and we're young, a lot younger than my dad's family. My dad had 16 kids in the family. Everybody's got heart trouble.
Oh, great.
But my cousins are dying in their late 40s, early 50s, and I haven't been able to go to any of the funerals.
Oh, man.
And so Sunday was sort of like getting together with the family, going over there. Seeing the relatives, it was sort of like taking care of all of them. So it gets our focus back. And today, as we get our focus back, we're going to basically now kind of follow a new format with Glenn's schedule and my schedule. And basically every other show will be done with Glenn and I together. And every other show I'll be doing a interview with somebody. I've got one I'm lining up right now with Dr. Peter Scare. Mm-hmm. We're going to do on marriage. And we're also going to do these shows following some of the sermon series we had this past summer at Emmanuel. Okay. I posted just last night, I posted on Facebook. By the way, it's facebook.com, the number 2 big guys. If you go there, the sermon on the topic we're talking about today will be on there, which is what your pastors want you to know about preparing your children for higher education. We'll talk about that a little bit, but we'll have this new format. Every other show will be together. Every other show I'll do an interview of someone somewhere. I've got a lot of neat things lined up, and hopefully...
Well, here's the only disagreement I have with you over raising your kids the way you did is, back in the day when you were in school, I understand you'd have to walk 5 miles to school, and
back in the day,
sometimes you didn't have shoes, and you were barefoot. And then your kids, you made them ride a public bus to school, a public bus. So
yeah, I bet you take your kids to school, don't you?
Listen, I drive my kids in a car. That's what's nice about having a vehicle.
Don't you?
So instead of my kids having to, ride a public bus, through downtown Tampa, 22nd Street, and some of the rough areas downtown,
builds character.
And calling you paranoid, you say, honey, just walk to school, you'll be fine.
Builds character.
But it builds character.
Hey, I lived near Detroit. I had my kids walk. So.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Detroit's a lot rougher town than Tampa, I guess.
Yeah. Anyways, what we're talking about here, as far as is getting our kids ready for higher education, we're talking a little bit about high school, but we're also talking about especially college. You know, you've been out on vacation, but you've also been looking for places for Lexi.
Absolutely.
Helene and I have been talking because she's looking at graduating the end of this year, what she wants to do. And of course, I've got 6 kids, and you've got 2. I do the same thing. It's just more of the same.
Yeah, exactly.
And, you know, I just thought of something I wanted to say earlier. You just had a birthday.
Yeah.
I thought you were younger than you are. You know, you're only 7 years away from 50.
Dude, who said that? I'm 20 years away from 50. What are you talking about?
You're 20 years away from 50.
Jeez, man.
I'll tell you what, to get this started here, why don't you go ahead and play that song? I just love this song. Glenn has sent this over to me a while ago. My wife does not allow me to play this in the house because it's just so touching. It's one of your best songs as far as your sound goes. And the person who wrote this has written the next daddy-daughter song. If you ever get this recorded and this ever goes public, it will take over Butterfly Kisses as the next daddy-daughter song.
I think so, too.
But it reflects on a lot of the stuff we're talking about. So go ahead and play that.
Yeah, you know, I'll tell a quick story about the song. I have a close friend of mine, Jason Granger, and his wife, Mila Mason. And when they had their child, you know, he wrote this song. And, you know, I was out on the road touring with my big album, and he was, you know, playing guitar with me as we were out touring. And, you know, somehow we came across a song, and he played it for me. And it was just him with an acoustic guitar, and I was blown away. I'm like, man, that is a hit song. And unfortunately, you know, the way I kind of see things going with country music nowadays, you know, back when, you know, when I was an artist and I was out touring, the emphasis was so much on the lyrics, on the song, on the meaning of the songs. And a lot of the songs now that are on the radio are not that their lyrical content isn't as good as what it has been, but they're more, you know, backwoods talking about, you know, a truck and, you know, drinking and shooting, you know, whiskey and all these other different types of things. So they're not lyrically as strong. You know, the Cruise song is a great song. You know, it's hit the radio waves and it's done really well. But the lyrics in the songs aren't as strong as they were back when I was in the business. And I don't know if this song would have a place in country music right now.
I actually think this song would have a place
it's a
everywhere.
hit, and I love it. And I'm glad you like it as well. And of course, the most important person I want to like it's your wife, you know, because she means so much to me. So anyway, and
What's the name of the? Tell them the name of the song.
She's going to go out with me. So you know, if that's
yeah, right.
I love your wife. Anyway, Tammy's a great woman, amazing woman.
Yeah,
so,
the name of the song is Growing, Gone.
And I'm
Beautiful.
gonna pull it up here right now. Hang on just a second.
A hall, a light, in the middle of the night she arrived at 12:45. 6 pounds of love is more than enough to realize that before my very eyes there she grows. She's here at last, and through the nursery glass I can see she's changing just like me. A smile, a word, she said Daddy first, and we agreed. $1 for her teeth. There she grows. There she marks on the wall show her inching away. I'm holding on, but she can't wait. The world I've seen ahead, she's trying to spin. I'd slow it all down if I could. Make that sandbox her neighborhood. I've got a feeling I'm not gonna win, and it won't take her too long before she's growing, gone. She rides her bike, 16 candles later she can drive, and dreams of wearing white. Come down to earth, I hear my father's words and realize I'm still looking through the glass. There she grows. Marks on the wall show her inching away. I'm holding on, but she can't wait. The world I've seen ahead, she's trying to spin. I'd slow it all down if I could. Make that sandbox her neighborhood. But I've got a feeling I'm not gonna win, and it won't take her too long before she's growing, gone. Going, growing, gone.
Oh, there it is there for you, Pastor, your favorite song, and I know I can see Tammy crying right now.
Yeah, you know I have 5 girls, and this really makes her cry. And it's funny because we were talking about your household and mine. Yours has grown and mine's gotten smaller. I'm down to 2 girls.
I know that's because you're a lot older than me.
Yeah, but you're catching up.
Older.
You're catching up. Hey, talk about, as we approach this topic that I preached on, talk about some of the things you've gone through with your girls, as far as getting them prepared for Lexi for college, next year or so. And
A couple years from now.
a couple of years from now. And, what do you see as the struggles that are there to we want our kids to grow up right.
Yeah, I think that, the expense of it is just absurd. I mean, a couple of the colleges we looked at, they're $30,000 to $50,000 a year. And it's like, oh my gosh, we need some scholarships, we need some assistance, and, unfortunately it's expensive, but Lexi, my oldest daughter, as well as my youngest daughter, Savannah, they are singers. They love to sing too. And fortunately they've been blessed with the ability to do it, and they love music. And I haven't pushed them or been a stage dad or anything like that, trying to make them, go after their dream. They really want to sing and they love to perform. So I'm trying to find them some type of performing arts school where they can learn the music business, where they can, they can sing and they can learn classical and do some different traveling, around the country and around the world. And some of these colleges are just fantastic, and they really are good for those types of things. So Belmont University is one that we looked at, which we really like a lot. That's right downtown Nashville and right on Music Row, actually. I mean, literally, you just walk across the street and you're on Music Row, where all the studios are and all the labels and all that good stuff. And Lipscomb University is another university we looked at while we were in Nashville, a few weeks ago. So I'm excited for them. I mean, when I was younger, I was on my own at 16, so I never really, had an opportunity. I never had parents that, had enough money financially, and I really didn't know what scholarships were. I didn't know what anything was back when I was younger. And I've worked since I was 16, and got my licensing in my financial services company and as a mortgage broker, and I did some schooling and a little bit of community college, but I never really had this opportunity that the girls really have now, and
Right.
and
Oh,
I
you-
wasn't as smart as them. I mean, they're all in honors classes, getting all A's. I was just into school to goof off, have fun, and be a show
Right.
off.
Well,
and
you've
that's
done
what I
some
was doing.
You've done some things to prepare them for that kind of
That's
stuff
true.
too. In fact, that's how you and I met. You,
Absolutely.
You sent the girls to Emmanuel Lutheran School, and we've
It's been pivotal. I mean, it's pivotal in their lives. Now they're in public school, and they've carried over everything. And it's funny how Saturdays, and Sundays, when we get up, the girls are the ones. I don't care if they stay up with their friends till 3, 4 in the morning, and they're on their computers and they're writing music and playing music and making videos and doing fun stuff with their friends. But every Sunday, they're the ones that come in and say, "Dad, let's go." I mean, this last Sunday we woke up at 10:15, and we were in church at 11. So this is just it's kind of crazy. The girls love Emmanuel Lutheran. They love being Christian girls and have good morals, and I'm really blessed. I
Right.
hope they stick with it.
Well, you gave them that education. You've been in church with them. Also, they sang there in the school. I've had you guys sing in church, and so just really well rounded. Now, you haven't experienced it yet, but I have. And the sermon that I did back in June, I think it was June 1st, what pastors want you to know about preparing your children for higher education, really had a subtitle, Christians in an Evolutionary World. And we're talking about people that think we've come from apes and not were created as God describes it in Genesis. And it's really what you go into there. Now, Lipscomb, of course, would be a little different. I'm familiar with Lipscomb. I went to Michigan Christian College, which is now Rochester College. They're Church of Christ, so there's a Christian aspect to that there.
Yeah.
But, Sasha was in school this last year, and this is what one of her professors told her. She said, let me take a look for it here. If you don't believe in evolution, you're either ignorant or stupid. How can you not see it? And that's how the class was started.
Wow.
And I said to her, I said, did you say anything? And I asked her, I said, well, why don't you ask him if you can invite me to come? And, I like embarrassing my daughters, and she didn't want to do that. But the reality is that trickles down not only to science classes, but to a demeanor that's there across the board. We've talked about life issues before. We've talked about other things. And you go into the university system, and if it's not a Christian school, and some Christian schools are even edging on some things that aren't just right according to the Bible, you're looking at a lot of pressure there. I look at my confirmation students. We confirm, 13, 15, 16 every year. My last parish, I used to confirm 80 a year. And I think about where they're at and the effects that it's had on there. And then when they get into a situation where their Christianity is challenged, and today it is challenged.
Every day it's challenged.
Yeah, and you want them to get right. You want them to be able to handle it and stand up to it. And it's difficult. But I think part of what we just talked about, my kids have gone to Christian school, been in church. You bring your kids to church, or they bring you to church, and being in school gives them something to start with.
A foundation, like you said, it's a foundation. It's a belief system. It's teaches them the right and wrong, and it kind of gives them some accountability for what they do and their actions. And and also, like I said, for me, just over the last year, just by doing these talks you and I have, and asking a lot of the difficult questions that I've asked, it's really given me a peace. A peace that I'm going to leave this earth at some point in time. I lost my dad. My mom's been going through cancer.
Right.
I could go tomorrow, and I feel comfortable with knowing I'm going to heaven. I'm going to live in eternal life, and all of us are going to go there at some point in time. That are believers, and I tell my kids that all the time. Hey, if something ever happens to me, because I drive a lot. I work.
Right.
a lot of drive a lot, and if something ever happens to me, I believe that I'm going to heaven. I have that comfort there. And of course I have, some life insurance, a trust, some other things set up in advance, and some investments and things. So I know they're going to be taken care of, and they don't want to hear me say those types of things. But if I don't discuss that with them and something happens to me, it's a lot worse, you know. And so like I said, I have such a comfort and a peace now that I just leave things in the hands of God. And you kind of express that to me. There's only so much we can do as humans, and try to
Right.
do the best we can, and leave it in the hands of God to deal with the rest.
You know, I hope for that whenever I have a confirmation class. You know, I've had these kids and I've taught them for a while. They've been through a manual getting taught, but the pressures are still there. And here's what happens sometimes. They go into the academic setting, especially in college. They're challenged like my daughter was. And some of them might not be as outspoken and Polish as my kids are. They show a little more verbal backbone than some, or some might not call it backbone. They're a little braver than others. But some kids will come in as Christians and then start to clam up. What do I say to the professors? How do I deal with something? I mean, what that professor said to my daughter's class was intellectually inept. I mean, it was just
wrong,
stupid
yeah.
to be able to say that. You know, I can go through evolution and show the shortcomings of evolution, but that thinking carries through to how you approach your sexuality, how you approach, you know, should I have sex before marriage? A lot of these universities, it's you know, the kids tell me there's sex everywhere, and then we drop our kids off and we want them to get educated, and they're educated a little bit more. So stability in the Word. I'm starting something this week, and it's being prompted by one of our former confirmads. Yeah, he's leaving for college. He had a lot of questions. Eric Felton.
Okay.
And so what I'm doing a letter to all the college kids that are out there every month.
Wow.
I'm writing him a personal one to start. I'm drafting a letter off of that one, and each month I'm going to write to them and basically just bring them the Word of God. Because I tell you, I know how I was when I went to school. I left.
You were crazy.
Well, I was crazy,
You
but
were wild.
well,
You were off the deep end.
yeah, a little bit. I went 600 miles away, and you know, and I stopped going to church.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was easy. And then all of a sudden, we get a phone call. My friend of mine, I went to school with all my life. He ended up in chef school with me. And his mother and my mother got together, and they were calling churches in the area where we were. And they found this church that would come pick us up. They would take us to church, and then
Wow.
they'd feed us after, and we got to watch football.
You didn't have to ride a community bus or anything.
No,
like that,
no.
Or
And we
walk 10 miles.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we also got a home cooked meal. Even though I went to chef school, it felt good to get a home cooked meal, and got out of the dorm life. Oh my goodness, dorm life is horrible, especially there. It just everybody was ape wild. I was by Vassar, Marist College, Culinary Institute of America, and when we were there, and this is the state of New York, including New York City, the liquor store up the street had the highest sales of any liquor store
Wow.
in the whole
And
state.
you were the top customer there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, the bunch of us were the top customers, but that translated to what was going on in the life of the campus. Alcoholism was terrible. They were trying to get AA on campus, but you know that business, you're around alcohol all the time. We have a dog in here. He's all right. He
Yeah, my little miniature schnauzer sits
Yeah.
in here in my office. We have
he likes being with us.
we have a recording studio here in my office upstairs, and he loves just hanging out with us. But what's funny is that when he hears someone downstairs, he'll come over and start scratching on the door to get out. But we're keeping him in here, and he's kind of mad at us. You know?
That's right. But every time we come up here, he follows us. So.
Yeah, he comes in, hangs out with us, and so tell me, Pastor. I mean, how did you keep on the straight and narrow?
And this is what I'm saying. It's okay, parents, to still be involved after your kids go. Mm-hmm. They go off to school. What did my mom do? And my friend's mom, they got together. You know, we were Lutheran, they were Wesleyan. We ended up getting a Nazarene church pick us up because they were the closest and they were willing to do it. And they took care of us so nicely. In fact, when I decided to be a pastor, I talked to the pastor there about it. And parents, it's okay to get involved in your kids' spiritual life after they leave the house. Mm-hmm. That's really the message of the sermon I did. You know, we give them everything. We hope they take it. But if they walk away from it, it's okay to get involved.
Yeah.
You know, some parents are afraid they're going to separate, or their kids are going to be embarrassed, and that they'll separate them from the church by saying something. And you know what I say? They're already not going to church.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
open your mouth. So, and like you said, all it is keeping going away from home what you had at home, and that made a big difference. Because I'll be honest with you, while I was there, I found myself going to the corner, getting a 6-pack, sitting in my room by myself,
Yeah.
and because
And now you find yourself getting a 12-pack sitting in a corner, and
Yeah,
sitting by
right.
yourself.
yeah, my
And then-
diabetes
then
wouldn't allow that.
A few
yeah.
shots of whiskey, and
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
But the thing is, I was drinking by myself, you
Yeah,
know, and it
yeah.
wasn't social, it wasn't anything, and I was away. But that I was disengaged from the life I had. And when you're away from home the first time, you did it younger than me. You were away from home way younger than me.
That's true. That's
And
true.
you know the temptations are all there, and it was easy not to go to church.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the phone rang.
Yeah, well, my story is a little bit more of dramatic, as to when I was 16, I was I was working actually, and I worked in a raw bar, and we had a big beer funnel. We would I could drink 2 beers in a matter of 2 seconds, and that was just me. I was a surfer. I worked in a restaurant, and I thought I was cool. I had a fake ID, and I'll never forget, having a few drinks, and a friend of mine that I worked with decided to race me down the Indian River Road, which is in Stewart area. And I decided, as we blew by a cop at about 100 mile an hour, he kept going straight. I decided to make a left into this mobile home park, and I thought, I'm going to outrun this cop. I've got this little Volkswagen Jetta. This thing's pretty cool, and I had a few beers in me. And so as I'm driving down this mobile home park, I'm going through every corner, every turn, and all I see is this cop right behind me, lights bright, and I'm like, man, I'm going to be in trouble at some point. This guy's going to, catch me here. And so I come to the end of this mobile home park, and it was a dead end. And I just sat there, and I knew I was in trouble. It was kind of a cul-de-sac with a bunch of them, and I put my hands up, and the cop comes up to me and, asked me to get out of the car, and, opened up my trunk. There was a cooler full of beer, and, we ended up driving up to the front of the mobile home park, and, they left my car parked in the mobile home park, and next thing I know, here comes my mom to come pick me up, and, that was my first stint with the law, being stupid and young and reckless and not going to church. And, I was the same thing,
Right.
And I'd been through so many churches that, I had seen some bad things happen in churches. And unfortunately, if you can't look at human beings or pastors of churches and think that they're all going to be perfect, because we're all human beings, we're all going to sin. And some of the sin that I saw growing up as a kid really turned me away from churches. So, when I got into the trouble there, I wasn't going to church. I wasn't following the right protocol. And, I remember I'm at work one day, and next thing I know, the police show up. And like, we're here to get Mr. Cummings. And I'm like, what? And my mom had me thrown into a detox center. I was under 18 years old, and
Right.
she had me thrown into a detox. And guess what I could do? Nothing.
Right.
I was under 18. She was the boss. I wasn't. And I was so mad at her. I'm like, I don't have a drinking problem. I'm just, hanging out with my friends, blah, blah, blah. But I tell you, those 5 days in that rehab center that was out of my control, and I was stuck there, and I got to see all the people that were drug addicts, alcoholics, see what these people look like, see what their lives were like. After I got out of there, I even went to meetings for a couple of years, and I didn't drink or do anything. I started getting back into church, and she intervened. If she didn't intervene at that moment in time of my life when I was a little reckless and out of control, I'd be more reckless and out of control than I already am.
Right.
So it's like, I'm still kind of crazy, but
Right. And that's
the drinking and the partying thing was out of control for me back then. And Yeah, she, like you said, she intervened, and I needed that. And there's nothing wrong with parents doing that for their kids, because if they don't, who knows where they're going to go? Who knows what they're going to do if they get down that wrong path?
Right. In the close of my sermon, I talked about something that we live in a fallen world. We live in a sinful world, and it's out there. There's plenty of it out there. And the thing, that I pointed out in your story here, the same thing. Your parent got involved.
Yeah, my mom got involved. She was,
and
yeah.
even when you grow up, even when you're out of the house, it's okay, parents, to talk to your kids.
Yeah.
They want to hear from you. It may not seem like it, but later on they'll thank you for those things. And that's the thing that we want to remind everybody. We do live in a fallen world, and we do sin, but Jesus is there to bring forgiveness to us. It's the reason he came here.
Absolutely.
The reason he died on the cross. And our young people are facing a lot. They have the tensions of academia on their back. There's nothing worse than academic stress. I'm a firm
my gosh.
believer in that.
Yeah.
And then there's the temptations of ways of walking away and getting away from that stress that are very prevalent in a lot of universities. And it's okay to say to your kids, hey, you going to church? Or, hey, you need to get out of this issue. You need to go out of that issue. You're not going to distance them by telling them what's right. They're going to distance themselves from God if you don't.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Glenn, I think our time's about up, and it's great to be back in the studio. Again, remind you can listen to any of our shows on godsoloved.org, or you can make comments on Facebook. That's facebook.com/2bigguys. And I'm also putting something together, Glenn. I didn't tell you about this.
Okay.
But we have our little brochures that have Two Big Guys advertisement on it. And on the back, I'm putting all our former shows. So if you have questions about struggling with sin, listen to this show. If you got questions about death, listen to this show. So if you're interested in those and you want me to send them to you electronically, just go to the Facebook page, message the Two Big Guys, and we'll get them to you. Leave your email, and we'll get them to you electronically. But it's a neat thing. I couldn't believe how much stuff we have that can help you. But we want you to listen to our current shows and get others to listen to our current shows.
Well, Pastor, once again, thank you so much. I'm glad we're back in the studio again, and we'll start getting back to doing this on a consistent basis for everybody out there. Sorry we've been gone, but it's been a rough year. We've been really, really busy, but now we're going to get back to it. So everybody have a wonderful, blessed week, and hopefully your families are blessed and you have a wonderful day. God bless everybody.